A thrashing is already something humiliating, but a heavy defeat in a World Cup is even worse. So in this video, we'll see the biggest thrashing of each of the last 11 World Cups.
It's 7! Oh!
If you think 7-1 was humiliating, wait until you see the other matches. By the way, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. So before going to past World Cups, let's start with 2014.
Height on it, it's gone through! Germany score!
In the group stage of the 2014 World Cup, there was an impressive humiliation, with the Netherlands destroying Spain by 5-1. Then the group stage ended and no other team managed to score 5 goals in a single game. It seemed like that would be the biggest thrashing, until they got to the semi-final.
Defense here could let Kroos in. A chance of a second for Germany. Brazil in real trouble. Germany looking good for the final on Sunday. They might get another one here. It's 3-0. Oh, this is quite astonishing. It's all over now. Özil, they're queuing up. They're all going to score at this rate.
Germany, facing the 5-time champion Brazil in their own stadium, made it 5-0 in the first half. Everyone thought this would be a more competitive match, but Germany destroyed them. And in the second half, there was more.
Back into Lahm. Square. 6-0 it is. But they might have number 7 here now. They have got 7.
7-0. Brazilian fans could not believe their eyes. In the end, Oscar scored to make it 7-1. By far the biggest defeat of the 2014 World Cup and one of the most shocking of all times. And that was just the first humiliation of the video. Let's see what was the heaviest defeat of each World Cup from 1982 all the way to 2022. And if 7-1 was surprising, how about a 10-1? Yes, that really happened. And for that, we have to go back some decades to the 1982 World Cup.
It's humiliating, what a start!
In that year, there was a team that went down as the worst in World Cup history, El Salvador. They managed to qualify for 1982, and right in the first match of the group stage, they faced Hungary, who simply finished them.
Now Pavlov's got to make it 2, and he does. Tries the long shot, and what a goal!
3-0 in the first half, but that was just the beginning.
Still the cross in, and that is a goal from an amazing angle. RCD and tries the shot.
When the game was 5-0, El Salvador managed to score. But soon after, they would experience one of the most shocking results in history.
Oh, scores the goal, and amazingly enough, and that is quite amazing. But now this must open up the chance. The header from Neelam, 10-1.
Yes, Hungary defeated El Salvador by an impressive 10-1. 10 goals in a single game, with 4 being scored in a span of 6 minutes. If it wasn't recorded, we wouldn't believe it. Now, after Hungary made the biggest defeat of 82, 4 years later, in 1986, they got a taste of their own medicine. That year, Hungary was in a group with Canada, France and the Soviet Union. A tough group, and right in the first match against the Soviet Union in white jersey...
Oh, and it's in! Yakovenko! The Hungarians really at 6 and 7! But what a splendid strike! 3-0. It's an absolute tragedy for the Hungarians.
3-0 in the first half. The Soviet Union was very strong, so they continued to humiliate them.
Oh, this is 4. It is. Oh, and it's number 5. And Rodionov wants to score. That's it, it's number 6.
Right in the first round of the group stage, the Soviet Union thrashed Hungary 6-0. The biggest humiliation of 86. These defenses are truly horrible, but a defense that cannot be weak is the one that protects your online information. And that's where Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of this video, comes in to help you. If you haven't heard of it yet, VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. What that means is that with just 2 clicks, you can literally change the location of your device. For example, by turning on my VPN, my phone is now in the US, now in the UK. And for security, this is crucial, because when you're like at a stadium and wanna connect to the free Wi-Fi, some hacker can steal your informations. But with Surfshark, you're completely safe. It hides your IP address and the location of your phone. Even more impressive is the fact that you can literally access content that's only available in other countries. Check this out. Each country has a YouTube channel that shows the official Champions League highlights. And without a VPN, I could only watch what's available in my location. Look, I can't watch this video, but if I change my location with just 2 clicks, now I can watch it. And if I wanna see the highlights in French, I just switch to France and there it is. And it's not just with YouTube. All streaming services like Netflix have content specific to certain countries, but you can unlock all that with Surfshark. I'll never stop using this. And by clicking in the link in the description, you get 4 months for free. Plus, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So unlock your internet, and thanks again Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now, after El Salvador and Hungary, let's go to the next World Cup humiliation, in 1990. And there was a team competing for the first time in decades, the United States. Yes, the US was in its first World Cup since 1950. They dreamed of going far in the tournament. But right in the first match against Czechoslovakia, they saw things were gonna be tough.
2-0 to Czechoslovakia. Bielek the scorer.
They made it 2-0 in the first half and another in the second. Then the US lost a player, but managed to score. Now it was 3-1. But soon after, Czechoslovakia just made it worse.
Well, Czechoslovakia wait to take the corner. And Miola got himself in trouble, and Skuravia scored another goal. And it's forced in by Ronaldo.
After 40 years without playing in a World Cup, the United States was welcomed with a 5-1 defeat. But at least they weren't the only ones. In another group, Germany faced the United Arab Emirates and also made it 5-1. The two biggest humiliations of 1990. So now, talking about the United States, we arrive in the 1994 World Cup, hosted in the US. And in the biggest defeat of that year, there were also records that had not been broken until this day. In that World Cup, Russia was competing as Russia for the first time. But in a group with Brazil and Sweden, they ended up doing poorly, losing 2 matches in a row. So they went to the third match against Cameroon already eliminated. But even without a chance of reaching a knockout stage, with the striker Oleg Salenko, they decided to bid farewell in the best way possible.
Нужно! 3-0.
Oleg Salenko scored a hat-trick in the first half. Then, when the second half started, Cameroon scored with Roger Milla. Even so, Russia didn't stop there.
Пас! Нужно! Гол! Отлично! Олег Соленко опять забил. В случае победы еще раз атака нашей сборной. Нужно! Радченко выходит 1 на 1. Надо бить! Удар! И мяч в воротах!
With 5 goals and 1 assist from Oleg Salenko, Russia defeated Cameroon 6-1. Making it a record broken by Salenko. No other player scored 5 goals in a single World Cup match. And that single goal from Cameroon set another record. The oldest player ever to score. Yeah, Roger Milla scored that goal at the age of 42. That was crazy. Just imagine playing a World Cup at 42. So let's fast forward 4 years and arrive at the next World Cup, 1998, hosted in France. And in the group stage, the home team thrashed Saudi Arabia 4-0. But that was not the heaviest defeat. The biggest humiliation was delivered by Spain.
It's a long run for Hierro, but he finds the corner quite beautifully.
Spain was in a group with Nigeria, Paraguay, Bulgaria, and was expected to advance easily. But they lost the first match and drew the second. So now, in a third match against Bulgaria, they needed a combination of results. They needed a win at all costs, and hoped that Paraguay would lose or draw against Nigeria. It was all or nothing, so Spain went all in.
Ready, a good pullback, lovely pace, Luis Enrique, good carrying, good pass, Morientes!
Then Bulgaria reduced the deficit, but Spain only continued to score.
Bulgarians pushed up and they're caught here by Morientes, who gets his second. Kiko! Oh, how many deflections there? Ball in, Kiko looked offside, but the flag stays down, and that's number 6.
Spain beat Bulgaria 6-1, a victory to show that Spain could go far in the World Cup. But remember, they needed Paraguay to draw against Nigeria. Well, they won. So, even with that 6-1, Spain was eliminated in the group stage. Now that's surprising. So, after those 6-1s, we arrived at the 2002 World Cup, that featured one of the heaviest defeats in World Cup history.
Klose! 1:0.
One of the top favorites there was Germany, that featured Oliver Kahn and Klose. And in the first match of the group stage, they faced the weak Saudi Arabia. That game was the World Cup debut for Klose, and after scoring the first, he quickly doubled it.
Lack. Klose!
2-0. Then, before the end of the first half, Ballack scored another one. Germany had a 3-0 lead at halftime. The victory was already secured, but in the second half, they simply humiliated Saudi Arabia.
Und Janka! Und da ist passiert.
That was a hat-trick for Klose, but they were far from stopping.
Und hinein damit. Wurscht, hier sind wir nicht in England. Und klasse gemacht! Hey, war das gut! Der Mauer links oben rein.
With a hat-trick from Klose, a spectacular free kick and several headers, Germany won 8-0. The biggest defeat of the 2002 World Cup and one of the largest in World Cup history. 8-0. That was crazy. And talking about Germany, 4 years later, they hosted the tournament. In 2006, the World Cup took place there. But this time, the team that made the biggest win was Argentina, in a match that went down in history.
Crespo waiting in the middle here. That's a fantastic ball. Opening goal for Argentina.
In Group C, Argentina faced Serbia and Montenegro, a country previously known as Yugoslavia, that had lost its strength and was nothing compared to what was before. So when Argentina faced them, Serbia and Montenegro stood no chance.
Cambiasso. Cambiasso! They've done it! They've done it! And scored a fantastic goal! Is this number 3? It is, you know.
3-0 in the first half. And in the second half, Serbia and Montenegro started defending better. But that was just until a 19-year-old came in.
Here's Messi. Brilliant goal.
He provided his first World Cup assist. Then Tevez did this.
Tevez.
What a goal! And to end this thrashing in a perfect way,
Is this another goal? Of course it is.
Argentina thrashed Serbia and Montenegro 6-0, the heaviest defeat at the 2006 World Cup. Also going down in history as Messi's debut, first assist and first goal in a World Cup. And if Messi was part of the heaviest defeat at 2006, 4 years later it was Ronaldo who showed up.
It's Ronaldo who's getting there first.
In South Africa 2010, Portugal was in a group with Brazil, Ivory Coast and North Korea. But they started in a not so good way, drawing with Ivory Coast. So they really needed to win the second game against North Korea. And Portugal went for it.
Moreles made another of those excellent runs. Fine finish.
1-0. But after that, North Korea managed to hold them. So they went into the second half with only 1 goal scored. It didn't seem like a humiliation coming. But in the second half, Portugal destroyed them.
Here's Simão. 2-0. It's an excellent run. Almeida unmarked in the middle. Here he is. Brilliant. Well-timed run here by Ronaldo. Good again from Portugal. And the shot is in. Goal number 4. That's a mistake, and it's Lietzen, and it's 5.
5-0. For North Korea, it was already a disaster. But Portugal didn't stop.
It's Ronaldo who's getting there first. It's 7. Oh!
With 6 different players scoring in an iconic goal from Ronaldo, Portugal thrashed North Korea 7-0. One of the biggest wins ever for the Portugal national team. So now, after this massive defeat in 2010, in 2014 Germany made the most surprising win ever, thrashing Brazil 7-1 in a semi-final. But we already covered that one, so let's continue and go to 2018.
That's a header for John Stones that's gone in!
In Southgate's first official competition as England's manager, they faced Panama, that was playing its first World Cup ever. And before playing against England, they had already lost to Belgium. So things were not looking good for them, and against England, they were humiliated.
Oh, how emphatic was that? Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard! And puts the ball in, and it's across for Sterling! And now it's in for number 2 for John Stones. Oh, same place.
5-0 in the first half. They were heading for one of the biggest humiliations in World Cup history. But in the second half, things slowed down a bit. But still, another goal came.
Loftus-Cheek shot deflected. Harry Kane's got another goal.
6-0. And then Panama scored their consolation goal, finishing it 6-1. So now we arrive at the 2022 World Cup, where England again tried to take the spot for the biggest win, defeating Iran 6-2. But Portugal also had a giant victory, thrashing Switzerland by 6-1. Those were really two overwhelming defeats, but the biggest humiliation was one made by Spain.
Finds the gap, wants it back, and gets it, and swivels and scores!
In the first round of the group stage, Spain, with a new generation featuring Pedri and Gavi, faced Costa Rica and demolished them.
Jordi Alba, who knew he had options! Beautifully done.
A total domination, 3-0. But it was in the second half that they confirmed that match as the heaviest defeat at the 2022 World Cup.
And Calvo standing strong, but Torres keeps going! And Gavi arriving! Taking on Matarrita, and once again a tasty ball in is dispatched. Morata thought about it, might still go for it and does!
A total humiliation, 7-0. A victory that entered the ranks of the biggest wins in World Cup history. And I wanna thank again Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to click in the link in the description to get 4 months for free. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you're gonna like this one. So thank you and bye.